Should I go back from the beginning?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah,
Good
no
morning,
problem.
everybody. My first ever, maybe not last ever, 6 a.m. live stream. I hear it with Lee today, the Kent Carnivore. He's got a crazy story, and he's going to tell us about it right
Yeah, sure.
now.
Right, so yeah, back in 2012, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, so inflammatory bowel disease. It exclusively affected my colon, unlike Crohn's, which can affect you anywhere from gum to bum. Very mild symptoms at first. The first diagnosis was proctitis, so very low end. And as months went by, I noticeably, it was getting worse in terms of the flares, the frequency and the severity of the flares, though at the time still quite mild, really, compared to how it got in 2017. I managed to stay away from meds. It was in 2014 that they put me on oral medication, and that basically lowered the bowel frequency movements, gave me some relief because it lowered just some of the symptoms. Didn't feel quite so rough when you flared. Wouldn't flare perhaps quite so much. But then, a year went by and it was kind of back to where it was again, despite being on the medication. Another year went by, it was definitely a lot worse. And then when 2017 came along, I flared for the last time. I kind of knew in a way because it felt so severe. I knew I was in trouble. The frequencies that I was going to the toilet was like crazy. In the beginning, it was maybe like 5, then 7, then 8, and 10. And I thought going to the toilet like more than 10 times a day was really, really bad, right? But on my last couple of days in this last flare, I was going 30 times a day. Despite being on this medication, I was trying to figure out other things that I might be able to do. My parents were away in the States, so I was at home with them. My brother, he was there with me. So they didn't know what I was going through, and I wasn't driving at the time, actually. So I got on the phone to my nan and said, I honestly don't think I could do another day like this. It just felt like I was in real trouble. So she said, oh, absolutely, we'll take you to the hospital first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And they took me in. They could see that I was really dehydrated, so they immediately put me on intravenous drip to kind of replenish all my electrolytes and things like that. They put me on steroids and antibiotics, all of this kind of stuff. And then I suppose that was just to get me out of trouble. They could kind of keep me in this state where sort of like maintenance, if you like, while they do tests and things.
Yeah.
They stuck the camera at the back end and had a little look around, and I refused the anaesthetic so I could see what was going on the screen. I could also see their expressions and reactions and things like that. Given my first diagnosis that it was so mild and that it hadn't been like a really long time, really. I mean, it was only like 5 years since my original diagnosis, which was really mild. They were almost skeptical about how I was getting the points across, like how bad it was. I got the impression that they didn't really think it was going to be too crazy. But I could see when they were looking, they were quite shocked and they were reacting. They started to mutter between them, like what, the plan of action and different drugs and all this kind of thing. So they basically put me in a room and just managed staying hydrated, managed things like steroids. When I was on the steroids, it was crazy because I'd gone from 30 times a day at home to going maybe like 15 times in the hospital. So it was a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
That's basically what steroids do. They seem to get you out of trouble, and all the time you're on them, they're quite miraculous. It's a shame they don't they come with no side effects,
Right.
But it's not something you can keep someone on for too long.
Sure.
Every time I kind of went off these steroids, it would just immediately go back to like 25, 26, 27 times the very next day. So they would stick me back on steroids again, and they would talk between them and figure out, what we're going to do. And eventually they trialed me on this immune suppressant drug. It was very, very potent, and immune suppressant drugs are really dangerous anyway. Obviously, it lowers all your natural defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea around it, I suppose, because it's an inflammatory bowel disease, it's your immune system that's the problem. If we lower your immune system, yes, you're potentially vulnerable for getting sick from other threats and things like that. But maybe we can get you in remission and we don't have to perform surgery. The idea was that they were going to keep me on it for 4 days because they can't go beyond that, just the potency of the drug and the risks associated, and it didn't work. So it was like a 50-50 chance, I think, which if I went into remission, I think my situation would have been that they would have managed me until they were happy for me to go home, and I would have just been on these medications for life. And I would have, I would have obviously continued to flare throughout the year when my body's like doing what it's doing. And so in a way, I mean, this was the only cure. But they came in after this drug didn't work, and they were like, "Sorry to break it to you, but you're not leaving without your colon. Basically, we're going to have to meet you the next day." Yeah. So basically, they brought around these nurses, stoma nurses is what they're called, because that's what I have now, stoma. Just introducing me to the whole concept and this new way of life, my new body I'm soon going to have. They just basically drew a little circle on my stomach. That's where it's going to be. They kind of went through it, we have to take your colon out, but your ileum's going to protrude through your abdominal wall. We then fashion a bag on top of that with a little hole. It's got like a sticky back. You just push it through, stick it on, and that's now how you're going to have to go to the toilet.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because at the time I took it really well. I think I was almost encouraging the surgery because I was just I just wanted to feel better. I felt like I was poisoned and all this stuff, everything that they were trying. And even when I was at home, I remember juicing cabbages because I see this video where this guy was like, "Oh, it's super important with anyone with IBD. You've got these vulnerable spots, and the best way to heal it is with glutamine, and you get this lovely glutamine content from the cabbage when you juice it, and all this stuff." I was taking this medication and drinking cabbage juice, and it wasn't doing anything. The medication was still intact on the way out, which is nasty. And yeah, it just shows you something was really not right, the whole system. But yeah, that's basically what happened. They took me in the next day, and so okay, I've got the whole concept of this stoma in my life in mind, but I didn't handle it too bad because I was just like, please, just do what you need to do. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Next thing I knew, after getting my gown and putting the socks on, they gave me an epidural. Next thing I knew, I woke up on my back, and they said that it went well. Obviously woke up and the pain started to come on stronger and stronger. And it was just a reasonably rapid recovery, I suppose, given my age and things like that. But at the same time, I'd never been through anything like that. So it's quite traumatic. I mean, just the pain I felt from first standing up with, like, I've got like a 7-inch scar from sort of just above my belly button downward. And it was hard to kind of stand up straight and like wash yourself. I remember walking down the corridor, felt like I ran a mile. Yeah. And I'd lost a lot of weight, even muscle. I'd never looked so like just depleted of muscle tissue and fat. I looked a little bit gaunt in my face. But yeah, they, slowly nurtured back to somewhat good health. The first thing I had was like butter on toast. I've never enjoyed butter so much in my life. Wow. It's funny, isn't it, going carnivore? I mean, it's going to be completely different for me this time because I've got another surgery scheduled that basically pertains to the first surgery. They took the entire colon out, but they left like a 5-centimeter stump behind that connects to the rectum, and that's all got to go because I'm not having a reverse. And that tiny bit that they've left, it's not compatible to give me a reverse surgery. Though they would give it to me if I demanded it and said like I'm really miserable, which I was. They would perform, but they really highly, recommend that I don't go down that route. Sorry, this is like the healthiest state that I'm in, less risk and things like that. But the idea is they can't leave it there because it's still problematic. It's still like affected somewhat there. It's been like 10 years since it's been affected there. The idea is that it's going to potentially produce cancer cells, mutation cells, cancer production, and we don't want that. So that's why I have to get it removed. But this time around, obviously, I'm going to go through a different route with my food and recovery, and it'll be interesting to compare.
Sure.
But
how? Oh, sorry. How were you eating before that created this situation?
I was just eating what I felt like most people were eating. What I thought was balanced. I thought was pretty varied. Sure, I had some bad food, what I knew was bad food, like processed here and there. I would have takeaways here and there, fried foods here and there. But in my mind, I was like, everybody's doing this. Why? I didn't really question it too much. I was eating whole foods as well. So I'd have like oats, rolled oats, porridge oats in the morning, fruits and cinnamon and things like that. I'd have whole grain sandwiches with lean chicken and fish and salad stuff. And so I thought that it was all reasonably balanced. Have like typical meals in the evening: lasagna, spag bowl, Mediterranean dishes, and like fish dishes. Sometimes if I was lazy, I would get a takeaway. But honestly, because I thought I was doing quite well for maybe 75 to 80% of my diet, I didn't really feel too bad about having a bit of chocolate or ice cream and the strudel and things like this. But obviously I had my weakness, my proclivity of weakness in my gut. And little did I know that so many of these things were an issue for me. Obviously seed oils are an issue for everyone. Alcohol's an issue for everyone. But if you're talking about that, I've got like this vulnerable wall in my gut, if you like. That's the alcohol's going to just wear that gut wall away. It's also going to like rob you of certain nutrients and things like that my body would preferably like to have to try and do what it needs to do to keep me in check. Seed oils, like obviously the molecules in seed oils, they go through the gut and change, so that would have been inflammatory for me. Seed oils are in everything, and every time you order out food or you go out to a restaurant, they've cooked it in seed oils, and so I wasn't aware of how that felt, because that's all that was always been my diet, you know, like the seed oils, the balanced diet kind of thing. And so I wasn't aware of that unnecessary suffering. But I guess until I took it away, it's like when you introduce it back in, it's like, wow, is that what I felt like all the time with just something like as basic as seed oils? But then you've got fiber. So fiber was definitely the main issue for me. And if you think about all plants, they all come with fiber. Certainly whole grains. So if you have whole foods and you have whole grains, they would say that's healthy, that you want it complete, you want it whole food. They're going to come with fiber because all plants basically are propped upright with fiber. That's their bone structure, if you like. Only ruminant animals can actually digest it. And so monogastric species like humans or pigs or whatever, when we consume it, that goes through our gut unchanged. So what I learned is that anything that goes through our systems unchanged, the molecules, even things like gluten, if it's not sorted in the stomach acid and it ends up in your small intestine, your colon, wherever you've got weakness, that's going to be inflammatory. So, and the fact that I was eating probably 3 to 5 times a day, because that was also recommended, I thought I was doing the right thing, little and often, don't skip breakfast. So, you know, I'd have some nice rest, wake up, and then just like, here you go, deal with that. Like all this fiber, seed oils, sugar, not alcohol, but, you know, in the evening, I was certainly drinking alcohol. And little did I know that all of this stuff was just tearing me apart. I wasn't like necessarily depressed at the time, but I have always suffered with anxiety to a point, and I was always highly neurotic. So that was the stuff that I was eating before, but obviously that caused all the inflammation. Once I'd had my surgery, which was pretty much an emergency surgery, I couldn't escape that situation. I winded up in the situation that I'm in now. It would have been avoidable if my doctors just understood nutrition and asked me what I ate and what I drank, because then they could have said, well, look, you can't afford to drink alcohol. If you do, maybe once a fortnight, 1 glass of wine, 1 pint of beer, that might be fine. In fact, my doctor recommended drinking a beer every day because it's strange, right? How crazy is that? His idea around that was that all these hops and all the barley and everything in beer, because they say, you know, 1 beer a day is actually good for men. 1 glass of red wine is actually good for women. And he's just diagnosed me with IBD, has no clue about nutrition, but I'm obviously like, well, you're the expert, right? I didn't know any better. Sure, okay, I'll drink a beer a day because that's going to help, like, some like moderate a bowel frequency that's regular. Do you know what I mean? I think that's basically what he was thinking. So I was drinking beer every day and all of that kind of stuff. Just so silly, really. But yeah, it would have been avoidable if we tackled the food and the fiber aspect of things, but they didn't know. And so drugs, surgery, there I was. I got back to the point where I was healthy enough, gained a little bit of weight back, and then I was independent with cleaning, maintaining, and they introduced me to a company that I have to go through to order my subscriptions monthly. There was another, so they're in like contact with my medical doctors, and then this company, I mean, the company's great. Frittleworth is who they are. They're really lovely people. They're always there, you know, on the other end of the phone, helping with absolutely anything. So, you know, they are a good company. They let you know if they're closing down in advance for 1 day, and so you can order, you know, extra bags if you're going away or whatever. Really lovely people, but they probably have no clue that this stuff is just totally avoidable. You know?
Right.
Anyway, so I got home after my surgery, and that's when depression kind of hit me. It was slow and fast at the same time. So I actually felt okay, because I was like, I don't feel like I'm dying anymore. I don't feel like I'm poisoned. I feel better. I'm home, and it was nice to be home. But my parents would go to work, they had come back. So they had come back while I was in hospital from the States. But that's where I went back. I was back with my parents, and they would go to work. So with my brother, and so I was just left alone in the house and just had so much time to think. I wasn't too active still because there was a lot of recovering still to do. I remember laying, completely flat down in my bed, because in the hospital beds you can sit in and lower yourself down.
Yeah.
I remember that was quite stressful, like getting into my bed that was flat, because I was used to like being able to go like that and lower myself down, because that 7-inch cut that's now just a scar on my stomach. That was really hard to just do, like almost an inverted sit up or something, like a back negative rep, just going down into your bed. Even that was hard. So I was getting on my bed and getting into like feet is like rolling into the side and then rolling back over to my back. Everything was different when I was at home. And then you didn't have these nurses coming around, and all of a sudden you feel like you're a bit strange, because you felt more normal when you were in the hospital like this, but now back home, this has changed. I don't know anyone else that has this. I'm kind of young. I was single. Everything just got to my mental capacity in a negative way, and I just deteriorated. It just got worse over time. I mean, it went in waves, like everything does. Even when I had IBD, it would come and go, and like you go in and out of remission. It was like that with my mental health. And when I was ready to go back to work, that's kind of how I dealt with it. I pulled myself into work. And actually, I was earning more money then, I think, than I've ever earned, because I was just became somewhat of a workaholic. It was just how I channeled the way I felt. And while doing so, I used to clean windows for a lady who I'm now engaged to. So I never thought that was going to happen. It's crazy when you're not looking for it. It's how these things happen. And yeah, we would talk every time I came around, like roughly every 6 weeks, and it just blossomed. And so that was a really positive turnaround in my life. Like that was like things are looking up, and I was genuinely really happy. She accepted me for who I am, and I could almost forget about it for a while. We got this house that we're in, and yeah, we all kind of just settled into our new life. But I think as we became accustomed to that, it's like the mental health came back. It's strange talking about it now, because it almost seems really ungrateful, because I was in this position where I thought I wouldn't have any kind of life, And then I do, but this hasn't gone away. It affects everything. It's very difficult to put into words, but I mean, anywhere I go, it goes with me. I can't run away from it. In the beginning, I didn't just go carnivore. In the beginning, I came back home and I was eating like what I used to eat, even what I thought were healthy foods. And every time I ate, if it was fibrous, I could feel the food kink, and like my abdominal wall and muscles would spasm and contract as the food was coming out, because it's not inside you properly. It's having to come out of your stomach completely. I could actually feel when I was digesting food, and the way it was, it was like a constant reminder of the situation. So I almost developed a love-hate relationship with food. It's like I've always loved food, but now it's kind of like I'm hungry, but I don't even want to eat, because I don't have to keep dealing with this feeling, and I don't want to have to keep emptying, because that's basically how it works now. I have this bag on the outside of my stomach. It's going to fill up every time you eat, like maybe 3 or 4 hours passes, and then it will start to fill up just very slowly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I would say it's kind of like three bags a day. That's roughly what it is. But I wouldn't let it get like to a point, because it's nasty to talk about. This is why I thought I was going to be single, like to even talk about this stuff is strange. But you wouldn't want to let the bag fill up. Not only is you don't want to be walking around with that, it's heavy. It doesn't feel comfortable, like pulling on your abs like that.
Sure.
If you wanted to take a nap, like you'd think like, well, can I take a nap, or do I need to go and empty first? Because what if I fall asleep for a few hours and then it's like half full? Or, you go to bed, it's like, hopefully it's going to just not work until I fall asleep, so I'm comfortable and I can relax. But then also when I'm asleep, I hope it doesn't work too much, because I just didn't know. All these things were new to me. Going to work, and just the idea that I'm out and I'm away of my comfort zone now, and what if I need to use a toilet? It was just everything was tough, and that never went away. Even, I'm not being funny, but with my partner and that, like there was going to be a day when we would be intimate, and that was like, what's that going to be like? I even bought boob tubes for women, like, so what I would do, you have like So you have like the bag that's always on. You always have the bag on because it's like it works on gravity. There's no control like a normal person would have control with muscles and stuff.
Right.
So it works when it works, and it doesn't go crazy. It's not like, oh, now it's working. I'm gonna have to like empty in 15 minutes. Like you've got a few hours.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought like, how's that going to work? So what I would do is empty, and then you have like a little Velcro bit at the bottom, and you can fasten it up higher, so it's like higher up.
Okay.
With it still being in the same position. And then I thought, well, I'll get a boob tube. That way I can kind of put it on so it covers it. So in my mind, I was like, at least I can't see it, she can't see it. Not that you can see anything. It's just it's quite innocuous. It's not very offensive. You don't see, hear, or smell anything.
Okay.
But to me, I'm like, this is weird. This is actually now part of my body now. And so I was like, well, if I put a boob tube on, kind of like it looks more, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing, I guess. Made me feel a little bit more confident. And also because there's some pressure, it just puts a little bit of a block on the bag kind of thing from working. On the stoma, sorry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a hurdle that I inevitably would come to. But yeah, I mean, she's great. I mean, it affected me more than it did her. She really didn't worry about it. She wasn't ever uncomfortable. I just thought it would kind of almost get in the way. But yeah, that was something I felt like I achieved something when I got through that. It was it's just all these things in my mind before. That's what was so hard to come to terms with it.
Right.
And unfortunately for me, I haven't had any kind of really embarrassing stories. I just thought it would happen all the time. Yeah, there's nothing. I haven't had any accidents. I haven't had any. I hear a lot of stories about people that they have like leaks or something. I mean, I've not had anything like that. I think I'm obviously just very particular about the way I change, the way I clean. I put it on like the way it's placed. It needs to be perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I've not had any problems. I've never had a problem with it being too full or not finding a toilet or an accident. And so in terms of that, that it was better than I thought. Lucy helped accepting me, that helped me accept myself somewhat more. But like I say, we're never safe from depression. I think if you have suffered, it somehow comes back to haunt you. And it must have been a brain energy problem, that the foods I was still eating. I came home from work and I would just paralyze. I'd freeze at the door because I would relax and be myself more. I didn't have to put on a false smile for people that saw me. And if there wasn't anyone in the house, sometimes I would just freeze at the door, be standing there for 10 minutes, frozen in my own head, thinking like, I don't know what I want to do about things. I had some really dark thoughts, and it got really real in the end, scared me. And I decided to go and try and reach out for help. I mean, even at that point, I didn't want to go down medication route. I know that these psych drugs can be really egregious on your systems and very difficult to get off.
And it's they don't help. Sorry. I've heard they don't help at all. They just cause lots of problems.
Right. I mean, I've heard a lot of people don't get that much relief. If they do, it wears off. Then they just increase the dose, and then they continue to do so. And then just say like, well, it's nothing. You shouldn't be on anything like that long term. It's not sustainable. And so really, it's like the plan's broken. Oh, we'll put you on this. It will work while you're on it, but at some point you're going to have to wean off of it. It's like, well, why can't we figure out what the issue is? Why am I feeling this way? Not how can we suppress that so it comes back with vengeance down the line. So I knew I didn't really want to go down that route. But anyway, went to the doctors again. They gave me this number, and I was in contact with people that specialized in mental health and treatment and things like that. We had an extensive conversation, which made me feel pretty good at first because of just getting things off my chest. And they were going to get back to me about how to treat me. They talked about therapy and potentially introducing some kind of medication in line. And I never got that call. So days went by, weeks went by, and I was thinking, I don't think, unless I'm going to go through this process again, I'm not sure this is going to happen. And all the time they didn't call back. I was thinking like, there must be another way. Like, why do I feel like this? If I go through this again and I get that second call, we figure out some kind of treatment, I don't want to take medication. And the funny thing is that I'm being so neurotic. I've always been very like pensive and very like perspective. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely.
Like in my own head, like I overanalyze everything. I always have. I think that's why I've never had a lot of self-belief, is because I think so far beyond what is necessary that I almost talk myself out of doing anything. And I don't know. I thought, like, if I go and see a psychiatrist or someone, you know, like what would they know about me that I don't know about myself? Like I've studied myself in such detail and tortured myself in doing so over all these years. They can't tell me anything about me that I don't already know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't get the ball rolling again, and 2 months had passed after this original call, and I just stumbled across Michaela Peterson's anecdote.
Oh, wow.
Don't eat this on the low carb down under channel. Yeah. And that just blew my mind. I mean, I was sitting there just ready for anything. It was almost like I was waiting for something, you know, just any other answer, just something. I just need relief. And I just took it as a sign, I guess, or an opportunity, and expressed to my partner, you know, I'm going to do this diet where she just basically, Michaela Peterson eats only meat. She's cured all these things, including depression. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe this can work for me as well. And so the next day, me and Lucy, we went to the store and we just bought everything that connects with the BBBE challenge, because I'd started to look at other carnivores and the channels and things like that. And that at the time was like a big thing. It still is. Really, a lot of people start that way because it's a very easy concept, and who doesn't like beef and butter and bacon and eggs?
That's only basically what I eat.
Right.
Mostly.
So yeah, I mean, that's what we did. We just stocked up on produce, and we both jumped in. She was quite supportive. She was like, well, I want to try this as well, and she wasn't struggling with anything, but she reduced her blood glucose down immediately, lost a lot of body fat, and yeah, I think her outlook's changed a little bit, you know, just even learning about the whole concept of you don't need to eat all of this stuff. And in fact, it's probably inflammatory, you know. But yeah, jumped straight into the diet. Very next day, my acid reflux went. So I've suffered with acid reflux for years now, and it would usually come on quite heavily in the evenings. Not something that I was really bothered about because I was so debilitated and crippled with this mental health problem that I was having. That I was like, oh, wow, that's strange. My acid reflux is gone. You know, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a week went by and I'm like, wow, look, my skin's kind of improved. I had like some acne on my back, and I've always had like uneven skin tone. I mean, I'm always pasty because in the UK we don't get a lot of sun, so I try and make the most of it. And yeah, so that's why I always look so white. But
but that's a
like
British thing.
Sorry?
That's a British thing.
Anyway, so yeah, like acid reflux went, my skin improved. Then I started to notice like the energy beginning to switch, because I had struggled. I was like, I don't think I can be no carb. Like zero carb is really hard. But I did do it cold turkey, and I was used to having carbohydrates like multiple times a day. So anyway, 3 weeks went by, and I was out working. I'd skip breakfast and I'd work the morning. It was a nice warm day, sun was out, and I just felt like I'm smiling for the first time, and I genuinely feel good. Like I'm not just putting on this false smile. When I was talking to people, and I sort of managed to articulate words better. I was in a better mood, and I had so much energy. It was crazy. It's like it went from like I'm struggling, I'm not sure if I can do this, to like, oh my goodness, this is the way forward, you know?
Yeah.
So I just pulled over and recorded my testimony on my phone and posted it to Facebook, because I just wanted to. It's really hard to just keep to yourself. You just want to share it, because it's so profound, especially when you've been in such an ugly situation. And it's like, I don't feel like that, at least today. You know, I just want to share this with people. And yeah, I had like a nice response from people on Facebook at the time. As time went on, I think people kind of got sick of me being happy. It's strange, like people. It's like what I've realized. So many people, like they want you to feel good, and they want you to do well. But the moment you do really well, there's like it's an ick for them. You know what I mean? Like why are you so happy?
It's over their level of reality.
Yeah, I think that must be something to do with it. Like do well, but just not as good as what I'm doing. You know, like don't be as happy as me. I don't know. It's strange, but yeah, I ended up deleting my Facebook actually, because I was posting all these things trying to help people, because I was learning so much about why this works, and I'm not depressed anymore. Like, you know, I just wanted to anyone, because I knew so many people that they're struggling with anxiety and depression or IBD, you know, what I used to have, and I learned that you can actually just resolve this. if you go on this diet, you don't need this medication, you don't need this surgery. So I was just really enthused, and it became so like just such a passion of mine that I kind of abandoned all my other hobbies and all the other things, because it was like it was just such a positive thing and so profound.
Right.
And so after a while, I was just I don't know, I felt like I was probably irritating people, and I felt like I was wasting my time on Facebook. So I ended up deleting all my social media.
Oh, wow.
Opened up I opened up a YouTube account and just put that same testimonial video onto YouTube, and it did okay. I think then I made another video while I went carnivore, and I didn't really understand the whole YouTube thing and what hits and what doesn't. It obviously just worked in the algorithm. I got like 7,000 views in like, I don't know what it was, like 12. But that to me was like amazing. Like, what? 7,000 people just sat and listened to my story, which is really strange. But I built somewhat of a little subscriber account, you know, and just enough to gain a little bit of momentum. And I just thought, you know, this is now something that it's like a new meaning, a new purpose in my life, where I found relief. I found peace and love in my life. I've got this lovely energy. All my problems seem to just miraculously go after 3 weeks. I just want to share this. And it wasn't so well received on social media, but on YouTube, you're reaching people that are actually interested in this stuff, because there's just so many people. If you hit the algorithm right, you can help a lot of people. So I immediately started getting people asking me about IBD and people asking me about this and that, and found that people were coming back to me and saying like, yeah, you know, I've tried it, you've inspired me, and now I feel a lot better, or I don't even take medication anymore. And so that's just what I started doing. I just, you know, make more videos, try and, you know, concentrate on depression for a video, or concentrate on IBD. Or then I started to put other videos together about just the whole concept, because the same old messages were coming in. Well, what about vitamin C? What about fiber? Aren't you going to get this? Won't you get that? And so I realized, okay, well, clearly I need to perhaps compile something together so that it's just a bite-sized, easily digestible video with all the information that most people they want. Like, it's not obvious. And I guess really, if I went back, you know, back in time, it's like, well, it wasn't obvious to me either. I certainly wondered about vitamin C. I didn't know that there was everything we need in just meat or eggs or fish and stuff like that. I thought we needed certain colors on our plates to optimize our health. And so that's what I started doing. I started putting these videos together, and that became my niche. I think that some of those videos hit a lot harder again. I thought, well, okay, this is what's going to help people. This is what I'm going to do, and focus on making these kinds of videos. And that's kind of it now. That's where I am. I'm not going to go back. I love carnivore. I love this way of life. I like how I feel, and I genuinely enjoy my food more than ever, which is kind of hypocritical, because in the beginning I was like, well, we don't live to eat, we eat to live. And at first it was like, you know, ground beef and eggs again, some bacon, I could put some cheese in there, that would be different, or a carnivore burger, but it was much the same. Where now I feel like there's so much variety in terms of what cuts you can have, different varieties of combinations of different substrates you're putting together, how you're cooking it. There's so much variety. And now, honestly, when I get genuinely hungry, all I want is meat. You know, that's all I think about is when I'm hungry. It's just like, I want steak, I want eggs, and it changes. Sometimes I don't eat any eggs. Sometimes I eat a lot of eggs. I just listen to my body, and depends on, you know, what I feel like it's asking for. But it's awesome. I love it.
That's awesome. I was listening to one of your videos yesterday. I don't remember which one. And you talked about you weren't worried that the scar was going to open up again. And you had a reason for this. I forgot what it was, but it really made sense to me. So I had 2 C-sections. So everything you were saying about like you can't like lie down because your abdomen's been ripped into.
Right.
It's really hard for a while. But I think what you went through is way worse than recovering from a C-section for sure. Because they're just cutting you. I don't know. They cut through like 7 layers, but they sew you right up like directly afterwards. It's like it takes like 3 minutes to get the baby out or something. It's so fast.
Yeah. I think my surgery was like 6 hours or something.
Oh, wow. No, a C-section is like 45 minutes. You're in and out of there.
Yeah.
the scar never healed. It would be itchy, sometimes pussy. Sorry, we're talking about gross topics. I'll just add that.
It is what it is, but what can we do?
What can you do? And sometimes it would have a little blood coming out, not like draining blood, but it would be like I'd put toilet paper and I would see blood. And so a couple weeks, maybe a month or so into carnivore, my husband looked at it and he's like, wow, your scar looks healthy. This is literally 5 years after I had a
That's amazing. Yeah.
And I think it was in the food. You had a good explanation yesterday. I don't remember what that was, why that would be that.
Yeah, well, I suppose I was thinking, with this whole vitamin C thing, like, oh, it's questionable. Like, is there enough? Do I have to eat liver just to get enough vitamin C? Because I suppose, that was something that concerned me. Like, well, I've got this big old scar. If I don't have enough vitamin C, is that going to start to go backwards? Is that, is that going to develop some kind of vulnerability to a point where it's now opening and my gum's going to bleed? Is this going to happen? None of it happens. And like you say, in fact, you don't get as itchy. You seem to have like a healthier looking skin around that area. Like it's more like it's tight, but it's also pliable and flexible, and the color and everything. Like all my skin got better. And I would burn quite easily in the sun. I would sweat, certainly if it's warm and I'm working, right? I clean windows, so it's reasonably physical, and you work on what you achieve. So there's incentive to work quite fast, right? You don't want to just take your time, do a good job, be thorough, but do it as fast as you can. So it's quite physical in that sense. Well, I went carnivore during the summer, and it was one day when I was working with a young fella, and he was like sweating profusely, and he was really rosy cheeks and everything, like flustered. And I was like, is it that hot? Like, I don't feel like it's that bad. I took my cap. I was like, I don't have any sweat. I'm not burning. And that's when I was looking into all that as well. But yeah, all my skin got better. And my scar looks healthy. Like, I'm not worried about that opening up, because I know that I'm feeding my body everything it needs, right? We're getting enough vitamin C, but we're also giving it an abundance of proteins, collagen being the most abundant in the body. Really good for your skin. We've got vitamin A and vitamin E, which is in all the fats. And then even vitamin D, which is just like a cofactor for so many different processes in the body. Well, we're getting vitamin D. We're eating enough cholesterol and even D3 in animal products, and then I'm out in the sun synthesizing that. Where before I was eating plants and I was putting sun cream on and sweating like crazy. And it's just funny to think that we should go outside and put sunglasses on because, like, oh my goodness, the sun is so bright, and then wonder why we don't have circadian rhythm or why we can't optimize our sleep. And then we're all vitamin D deficient, but we just blocked it because we put sun cream on. And you didn't even get D3 if you're eating mostly plants. You get D2. So it's just not the same. Your body has to make all these conversions, and it's just suboptimal when to just like a nutrient dense non-inflammatory food like red meat, another animal product.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So many changes. Funny question. Do you wear deodorant?
Nope, I haven't. So no, I don't wear deodorant. I don't use toothpaste. I use like baby wash with very little ingredients. Like, you can kind of almost identify what they put in it. It's not like these long crazy words. You're like, what is that? So I only wash in baby products, like one baby product from head to toe, basically. Every now and again, like in the winter, I do actually moisturize. Again, it's like a very simple, it's like very pure. That's only because I've always suffered with my skin, and carnivore's not going to make everything perfect,
Sure.
But it's like either almost completely cured, completely reversed, or vastly improved, like 90%, something like that. So sometimes the winter comes along, obviously I'm still working outside, like you wash perhaps like cold water, you go outside and you get like a little bit of dry skin, perhaps I'll just like moisturize a little bit. Though I will probably look into using animal products for that, maybe tallow or something like that. I'll look into that. But no, I haven't used deodorant or aftershave or anything for over a year now. It's just no need. I don't believe in it. It just seems strange. That's the thing. When you go carnivore, you cut out all this processed garbage and all these inflammatory toxic substances you're putting in your body. And then you start to think, well, I should probably stop using this toxic substance that I'm putting on outside of my body.
Right.
So I was like using hairspray to like shape my, That's why I wear a cap quite often, because if my hair doesn't, I just stick a cap on. And yeah, there's no need for so much of this stuff. Like, why would we need to use toothpaste if we're not eating sugary, toxic, acidic foods?
Yeah.
You know, you could probably bury your teeth in a steak or a piece of cheese or a piece of fish, and you'd never have to worry about your teeth like developing cavities and eroding your teeth enamel, because, well, it's just food. Why would food destroy your teeth? Right? Why would food destroy anything?
Sure.
And so, yeah, so at the moment I was like, well, I'm not eating sugar. I'm not eating carbohydrates. I don't have potato starch stuck in my tooth somewhere. It's not an issue. So I just stopped using toothpaste. And honestly, I don't even get that much plaque on my teeth. I brush my teeth twice a day just with water and a toothbrush. But I just give it like a little scrub around, and that's it. And I don't touch deodorant. I don't even think because I don't sweat that much, I don't think I would have so much, like, I don't know, like a natural BO, like even when you're out working. I don't think that because there's no toxins coming out of my skin. That's another thing I've realized, is that a lot of the time when I was sweating, it wasn't because I was overheating, because it's the same temperature out there during the summer that I was working in last year, pretty much. Yet last year I was sweating and this year I'm not. So, okay, what's the difference? It's not that I was overheating. It's that I was full of toxins, and my body, the biggest organ in the body being the skin, is just a great way to rid toxins. And so you think about someone who's drinking a copious amount of alcohol, the next day you can smell it on them and they're sweating it out through their skin. Well, I don't drink alcohol. I don't have like carbohydrates and sugars and emulsifiers and binders and things that my body's like, what are you? Get out.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's probably what's going on there.
It's like you find all these things that you didn't even realize you were going to fix.
Oh yeah, 100%. The very next day, acid reflux. I was like, that's strange.
Yeah.
I haven't got acid reflux, and I haven't had any acid reflux for over a year now. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's awesome. I mean, I talk a lot on my channel about my menstrual cycle, and I won't talk about it here right now, but it totally changed. It totally changed.
It's awesome. All hormones, just hormones. They get back to being like normal. You know, the functionality of the endocrine systems, just they regulate and rebalance.
It's crazy. I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago, and I think now is the most normal in my entire life my hormones have ever been at 40 years old.
Who knew, right? It's amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You have some nice comments here, so I want to find some of them. Sarah says, kudos to Lee. Is it Copus?
Yes.
Is that his name? Okay. For sharing his story to save others from unnecessary suffering. Yes, thank you. Your channel is awesome. I'm like, how does he make these awesome videos?
I appreciate it. It takes a long time. It's just editing. That is the thing. It's all editing.
Yeah, I'm like, one day I'll get there. One day. Amazing community. # team carnivore. Let's see here. I thought there was some more. I wish I would have starred them. Sorry. Here we go. Here we go. I'm super pasty too. This is my friend Christy. And I'm in Southern California. It's my genes. LOL. But at least now I don't get sunburned quite so easily. I used to burn 5 minutes or less. Oh yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's another thing as well. I think the fact that I don't know. I don't really, I don't burn. So I don't even tint and then tan. It's strange.
Yeah.
It must be something to do with genetics, but also like where I am in the world, we don't get that much sun. And it's the thing, I'm out in the sun for like 6 hours during the week. Yeah, look at me.
Wow.
I don't wear sunscreen. Right. So it's crazy. I mean, maybe if I lived somewhere else, like in the States or somewhere close to the equator, or
I mean, I live near the equator, and I live up in the mountains. I burn easily, but it's not bad anymore. The next day I'll just turn kind of tannish. I'm still really white. This light, how the lighting is, doesn't show really.
Do you know? I mean, I'm not going to say like get rid of pork, but if you stop eating pork, you won't burn at all. Like,
oh wow.
Because the pork is higher in polyunsaturated fats, it's the same as the seed oils and the vegetable oils, those omega-6 fats and linoleic acid. So that's basically what's driving that photosensitivity through the plants. And pork, because they're monogastric, they're not the same as ruminants. They're not as high in saturated fats, and so it's kind of just like flipping that fat around. So what I've noticed is if you don't have any pork, which in the beginning I kind of I did the BBBE challenge at first, but then I kind of came away from pork because I did have some heavy feelings after consuming a lot of the fat.
Yeah.
And I realized then that it's optimal really if you can to lower the pork and focus mostly on ruminant. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying my pork now. It's a great.
Good.
I love it. Ribeye steak and a pork chop is like my favorite now.
Oh, that's awesome. We consume a lot of pork here. We take like pork belly and grind it up so I can make like chicken nuggety sort of things for my kids.
Right.
Incredible. We do eat a lot of pork. But yeah, at the beginning I felt kind of bad eating pork. I had to like adjust to eating the amount I was. And now I've lessened the amount that I eat. So maybe I'll go out in the sun all day today and see what happens.
It might not happen overnight. I'm not sure, but
no. What other reason I did this so early is I promised my kids I wouldn't do anything on Saturday, so they're still sleeping.
Oh, right. I see.
There's a question from Scott. Do any of you deal with keto rash? I have it pretty significantly in my underarm area. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? So no, I don't deal with that.
I actually haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
I don't know. I've only had improvements with my skin. Like I itch a bit less. I mean, Kendi Berry was talking about like if you have any kind of rashes and things like that, and a lot of it can be down like with your lymph, your groins, and things like that. Well, what feeds some of that is sugar, and I mean, as far as I understand, just cutting out all the sugar and stuff like that. I don't really have any itches or skin problems, so no, I'm not sure. I'll look into that. I've not heard of that before.
Okay, great. I just asked if anyone else has any more questions.
My partner had some skin tags under her armpits, and they've like 50% gone now.
Oh wow! Wow, yeah, I have one right here. I hope it goes away.
Yeah, I think it does over time. I think it does. And she's not even like strict anymore. She did it for 30 days, and then she went keto, and now she's like loose keto.
Okay.
But still doing really good.
That's great. That's great. What about her daughter? Can we ask that?
Yeah, Sky. She's so. Basically, Sky, it's difficult because when you're a kid, when you're really young, certainly at her age, I mean, she was 13 when I went carnivore, and now she's 14. So she's at that age where she's now starting to go out and have like a little bit of a social life here and there, and everyone's doing what they do, and it's not like there's just carnivore and keto available. And so she's kind of like when in Rome, she's young, so she's going to metabolize some of these problematic foods in a way that we can't when we get a bit older. And so when she's here, which is most of the time, she stays with her dad every fortnight for a weekend. But when she's here, she's eating mostly like keto friendly. I would say keto friendly. Not all of the carbohydrates that she has would be advised on keto, just because perhaps like glycemic index and things like that. Right. But she's eating more meat, more fat, more. She does love pork and she does love dairy, so. We just kind of like, well, if you like that stuff, it's animal based, it's nutrient dense. Well, that's great. At least you're incorporating more of that in your diet. She's cut back on sugars and things like that. What we've realized actually is that she's got somewhat, maybe not of a gluten intolerance, but certainly a wheat intolerance. Mm-hmm. Because when she goes back with her dad, she comes back like not feeling her best.
Sure.
Because they feed her differently. Yeah. So she goes, she'll go like almost 2 weeks on a higher quality diet, and then she goes over there for 2 days and pays for it. And so she's like, I don't really want any of these grains, or can we do gluten free or wheat free and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does pretty well. I mean, she does have some sweets and things every now and again, but she's young. The most important thing to me is that she has the knowledge. She actually understands nutrition more than even an average adult would now, and so she's armed with that, and anytime she has a problem, she knows what to do. And when she's older, I wouldn't say develop first on a bad diet and then go healthy. If you can,
right, intervene
as soon as possible, incorporate more eggs, incorporate more red meat, certainly if you can eat that fat, and try and get away from certain food disorders or certain fears and associations with food that weren't normal thousands of years ago. They're just normal today because we're disgusted by blood, and we're disgusted by organs, and we're disgusted by animal cruelty. And I'm obviously against animal cruelty. I don't think we should just have these bad practices, the slaughterhouses, and I believe that all animals should be living their natural life. You know, like we should be living a proper human life. They should be living their natural, proper cow life or chicken life. Be out in pasture, eating their natural food in the sun, and then right towards the end, give them a quick shot, and that's it. Because that's what they're there for. I mean, I know some people don't like to hear that, but this is our food. This is our species appropriate diet. I mean, you can care about the animals all you want, but I think caring about your kids and your family and humans is easily as important, right? What more important?
For sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Our neighbor slaughtered a pig recently, and I ordered a bunch of the organ meats, and the liver was delicious. It was very good, and I even loved the flavor of the pig liver.
Right.
And the organ meats of a pig didn't make me feel how eating any other part of the pig feels, if that makes sense. Like it was very light on my stomach. It didn't. Anyways, I like to promote eating organs.
It tastes quite fruity, doesn't it? I mean, when you go without sweet and stuff like that, when you take a bite out of liver, it can taste to me. Like I'm trying to think what I was liking it to. Apples and yeah, I think it has like an appley taste. I don't know if you agree with that, but then also
I don't. But I didn't eat it raw. Do you eat it raw?
Yes. So
I cooked it.
I never really enjoyed to cook my liver. When I cook liver, something happens and my taste buds are like, no, don't eat that. I don't know why.
Okay.
So I was making the effort anyway in the beginning because I was like, well, what about vitamin C, right? So I was incorporating liver like every 3 days, and I'll just have a couple of strips, and then I would cut it up and mix it with my mincemeat. I would also cook it in bacon grease to kind of disguise that flavor, because I just didn't really like it once it was cooked. But I've found that, like for me personally, liver is more enjoyable raw. I just also, I'm not saying like we should eat a ton of liver, but if you eat like a reasonable amount of raw liver, it's like, wow, it's kind of euphoric. It's almost like what they talk about when they talk about high meat, and you get that like that energy and that pickup. I never used to like kidneys, but now I quite like kidney. So I've had kidney raw as well, and I've had kidney cooked. And yeah, I quite like kidney. I don't have it too often. Again, I think that the diet is so nutrient dense that it's just here and there. Like, I mostly have like ribeye steaks, pork more frequently now, but I do make sure I'm getting an abundance of saturated fat. So what I do is I have like lamb fat, which I get free from my butcher. And so I pretty much have like a ribeye steak with extra lamb fat, maybe a little bit of butter on top, cooked in tallow. So there's plenty of saturated fat. And then I'll have a small pork chop, which is like something that I really enjoy. I look forward to that afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's funny, like the liver tastes genuinely like apples or rhubarb or something to me. It's really strange.
It's strange. I wonder if it's because what they eat.
Do you know, I was thinking, I personally think it's a combination of high iron content and high vitamin C content. I know it's not super high, but if you think about fruits, they're like high in vitamin C and iron, and that combination, I don't know.
I'm a little weary to try raw pork anything, but maybe I will try raw cow liver.
Yeah, it's probably not worth trying raw pork. I just don't think
like the organ meats of a pig. I don't know if I want to try that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's not worth it. I mean, look, let's face it, right? Chickens being a bird, birds aren't poisonous.
Yeah.
Pork wouldn't be poisonous, but because of how we farm a lot of these, because of certain practices, they get sick. Then when you eat it, you may get food poisoning. That's how it works, I think.
Exactly. I do love kidney liver. Anytime, kidneys, cow kidney liver. I have yet to eat cow liver. I haven't gotten there yet, but I think I will like it.
Ox liver is the most potent, I think.
Oh,
ox liver. Yeah.
I don't know if I can find that here.
Right.
I want to see if we have any other just comments. Here's what Scott says. He says, I have a significant redness under my arm, not really painful, just very red, like a baboon.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure why that would be, honestly. Keto rash. Yeah. Okay.
Lisa says oats have gluten called avenin. Oats are not gluten-free, just another food line. Oh, interesting. All right. Let's see.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because that's true. I always used to remember browse, because I didn't realize that actually, but I always think like anything with gluten, it's like browse. So it's like barley, rye, oats, wheat, spelt browse.
Oh, browse, interesting. Sorry. I ate like 2 bites of Greek yogurt last night, and now my nose is like out of control. Serves me right. Serves
Too
me
low in
right.
fat.
Probably. Cod liver tastes like lemon. Wow, that's nice to know. That's interesting.
I'll have to put some on my fish.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty much it. We're almost at an hour. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say.
Well, honestly, I know it's like you're interviewing me, but I was going to ask you a question. Like,
Go right ahead.
How has this changed your perspective with your children? Because you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, 7 and 5. Yeah.
So how have you changed, or do you know what I mean? How have you intervened on the way they think of food, or is that something you feel is like necessary to a point, or?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Very much so. But first, when I first started, we were still getting the same stuff for them. So here we have like this tortilla thing. It's called an arepa. It's like a chunky tortilla. And various other things. We haven't really ever had bread in the house because the bread here is so good.
Right.
In Colombia. Like you just go to the bakery, it's so good, and I would just eat it. I wasn't a binge eater, but I would be like a bored eater. Which
Right.
you want to see a picture of me real quick, and then we'll get look at this. Look at this. I always love to show this photo. So this was not when I started, but when I started 7 months ago, I was within 10 pounds of this. This is when my son was 7 months old. Sorry, 11 months old, more
That's
or less,
amazing.
maybe a year. Yeah. So I am 5'4". I don't. Do you guys do centimeters over there? You guys do centimeters, so I don't know what that is in centimeters. I'm 5'4". And this is like maybe 225. And I started 7 months ago at 209. I was big, and I just like eating. I love food. I've lost 30 pounds. I could lose more, but
wow, yeah, that's great. You look like you've lost more the way that you're sitting.
I probably lost more fat and put on muscle, like because I've gone down several pant sizes. Anyways, I showed that. So I just my culture from the Midwest, we love food. We just talk about food. My family, we get together, we just talk about food. What we ate yesterday, what we're eating tomorrow. And people that aren't part of the family, that like my husband, people outsiders that join the family are like, why do they only talk about food? Anyways, so to my kids, they're both healthy. They're normal. I'm normal. Actually, look at their bodies, and like my daughter, she's this 5-year-old. She looks so muscular, like a little athlete. And I think this is what human bodies are supposed to look like at any age. Like you can just see the muscles, and they're very active. My daughter more than my son, but they're both skinny, normal kids. I was worried that they were going to be fat kids like me, how I was as a child. I was like a little chubby. Love those Chicago style hot dogs and French fries.
That's certainly not normal. Right. So, I mean, obviously, when you're having a growth spurt, you're going to have some extra weight, and that allows that growth spurt, with milk or whatever it is. But I mean, it's not normal if your kids are
not
really chubby, like really fat, or certainly, 8, 10, 12 years old. That's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. I was at 10, I was like 100 pounds. And at 2, I was 50 pounds. But I would have these growth spurts. So my dad, I wonder if he's watching, I don't know. He would always say I would get like a fat phase and then like a skinny phase. And I just did that. So I'm just very happy that's not for my kids. But they're not eating the McDonald's and the French fries and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes, like we're going to go out today, and whatever they ask for lunch, we'll let them have. But we've been slowly educating them. And thank God for my husband. He's 100% supportive. He's skinny. He's probably built like you are. Like, and my weight has never been an issue for him. But all the pain associated with being so fat, he had a problem with. So we've been trying to resolve this for years. So this worked, and he backs me up 100%. So over the months, we've been getting more and more bad things out of my kids' diet, and they eat a lot more meat now. They eat a ton of meat. But we have fruit. They eat bananas. We always have fruit or plantains or apples in the house, and they can eat what they want. There's like a little table. They can go eat it whenever they want to eat it. or they can go in the fridge. That's why we have yogurt, you know, sugar-free
Mhm.
Greek yogurt. And now it's my nose. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah. No,
But
that's good.
yeah, they
I
eat a
think
lot of red
that's a
meat.
smart way
And
to go about it.
yeah, and we educate them like sugar is not good for you. Also, so here in South America and probably in other areas of the world, but here you really get to understand the subject of parasites.
Right.
So every 6 months we're taking a medication, or we try to do it often to, you know, the doctors want you to do the medication every 6 months for potential parasites. Like it's a normal thing.
Right,
So, but
right.
if you're eating less sugar, you're going to be creating less parasites. And my kids know, like, if they eat less sugar, the worms in their bellies are going to not be
Yeah,
so
that's the thing,
active.
right? They don't have much to feed on. A lot of that stuff that is feeding on the stuff we shouldn't be eating anyway.
Right, right. Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah, they love like apparently they love milk also, but maybe the highly processed milk, those little bugs. Anyways, the point is that in the last months, my kids are more and more meat based. And
Mm.
my son always loved meat. He always asks for meat, so and
Good.
eggs. And I'm glad they're so young and we're educating them correctly
Yeah, oh,
ethically.
that's going to make a huge difference. You're just setting them up for a better future.
Yeah,
I mean, I wish that my parents knew what I knew,
me
what I know
too.
now.
Yeah,
And just, I mean, just what I've learned, then Lucy's kind of on board, and then Sky. That's the thing with Sky, is that she does observe and she listens, and I think it
great.
does matter to her. She'll say like, oh, do you know, I actually wanted just a few days of like being a bit more strict. You know, it's funny because I
Yeah,
think she almost feels guilty about, well, maybe I over-treated myself over the last few days, and so now I want to come off of that and not at
right.
such a level, and increase a little bit more, you know, of these keto friendly foods and focus mostly on that. So it's good, even 14 years old, that she's thinking that way. She's armed with the knowledge, and yeah, that's just going to prevent so much unnecessary information. You know,
Yeah,
certainly if it's something that it's not a problem when they're a child, often they can metabolize this stuff quite easily. But
sure.
if they continue to do so, I mean, I was trying to think now how old I was when I like started to suffer, but I mean, I lost my colon when I was 28, so that's young to lose your colon. I mean, there was
That's
things happening
yeah.
way before then
Mhm.
that was unnecessary, that was causing problems. That if my parents knew, they probably would have said, well, you can't eat that, Lee. You know, if I knew that I was going to lose my colon at 28 and what caused that, I wouldn't be enjoying those foods. Like, that's just
Right,
crazy. You know, I think we only enjoy it because we think we get away with it. You know,
right.
oh, but we don't. We don't. No one gets away with anything.
No, no, not at all. So I will bring up my menstrual cycle here. It was terrible
Mhm.
for many, many years. Torturous. And I don't know if your partner ever experienced that, or your soon-to-be
She's
stepdaughter, but
she's never had any kind of pains, really.
oh,
Not
okay,
really.
that's
Not
great.
much.
That's great. So excruciating, debilitating pain is what I experienced.
Mm,
So if that ever does happen with them, you know, it's the seed oils. It's the seed oils and the
right.
junk food. And I wish I knew that when I was 13, 14, when starting to deal with this stuff for 20 years, 18 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's always why I talk about it, because you can't get away with it. So in my teens and my 20s, I wasn't fat, but I was tortured monthly
Mm.
torture from the food that I was eating.
Which you would have thought was just normal. Like, this is just me, my time to feel what I
Oh
feel.
yeah, no, I literally thought it was normal, and I thought that every
Yeah.
woman experienced it. Like I thought
Right.
that this
Exactly.
was just like I couldn't deal with the pain that every other woman seems to be able to deal with. I just wish someone would have said like, "Hey, no one said don't eat sugar. No one said stop
Yeah.
eating the French. People said stop eating French fries because they're going to make you fat. They never said stop eating French fries and you're not going to experience this monthly pain anymore, because I
Mm,
don't think
mm,
anyone
mm.
knew. It's crazy. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
But being
Uh,
failed left, right, and center.
Um, we have someone saying uh, in the comments, Kent, it's Lee. Name's Lee. Would you like to hang out? Do a hangout with him? And then why haven't I done one yet? Because my life is crazy. That's why. But he'll be on soon enough. His name's Bold Carnivore.
Yeah,
You
for
say
sure, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Indonesia? Is that what you said? Is that where you're at in Indonesia? We're all over the place. We're all over the place. All right. Did you have any other questions for me?
No, I was just honestly wondering because I knew you had a couple of kids. I was like,
Yeah.
I just wonder whether you've exposed just some of the information. You obviously don't want to scare your children. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's one thing that I was thinking is I don't want to scare Sky. I don't want to
Yeah.
make her feel guilty. But funny thing is, as it turns out, she genuinely feels guilty now. Just having the knowledge, she'll then feel guilty, right, when she overtreats herself, and which is why she'll say, "Well, I want to be a bit more strict." So that's nice. That's kind of what I wanted out of it. Really, let's educate Sky a little bit. If we can incorporate more of the good, like what you've done, increase the red meat, increase the eggs, and then just pull back on some of those processed foods. Certainly, I mean, it's obvious, right? Like the moment you learn about how bad seed oils are, if Sky wanted something that wasn't necessarily keto friendly, but you'd use seed oils, well, now we're cooking animal fats,
Yeah.
you know, and so at least you've taken that out, and that's going to make a huge difference.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, it's been an hour. We could probably
Cool.
talk all day, but I think
I
we're good
appreciate you
for
having me
now.
on.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and telling your story.
Absolutely.
It's so
No worries.
crazy. Thank you for sharing it. You're going to help so many
Sure.
people. All
Cool.
right. Well, that's all. Chat. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm going to say goodbye. It takes 12 minutes for the stream to end, but we'll just sit here smiling. Okay, bye.